Well, hello and greetings, it's Lee. Well, for this video, as the title is going to say, it's going to be about, well, the end of the world, which also, most certainly and perhaps more so, means a beginning. To think that anything has a final end, well, let's just say, in a natural essence, we know in our hearts that there's no such thing as this. So, when people talk about the end of the world or the end times, rather it means the end of the type of life that we have been used to up until this point, basically, right? So saying this, like for example in the book of Revelation, or as it has been called in other terms, the apocalypse, meaning the revealing, and this is not leading to an end of anything, but of course to a new beginning. Now, it is not to be taken in a religious context that this book says that, that book says that, and that there's an argument between them, but rather the human heart, when looking at something, it recognizes the mirror of truth and says, well, of course. So that said, what I wanted to mention was simply this, that the end is going to be the end of a type of lifestyle that, or a conditioned life, when the soul is living in a planetary existence such as we have been living here. We are in a certain conditioned mode. But this is very soon about to change for the better for very many of us. Now, it does have to do with primarily those who want to embrace it. Those who are still very much attached to 3D reality are, by their own willful intent, are not necessarily ready to leave, and in this case will continue a different type of lifestyle, have a different type of planet perhaps to take on next, etc. Now, we can get into all of those subtopics or whatnot, but the main thing is simply this. When people ask about that, when is the day, when is the time, when is it going to happen, we have to understand that there is no pinpointed exact day, hour, minute, millisecond that it happens. It's not as if it's going to be everything blinks off and blinks back on and it's changed like that. Now, recently, and as the time of the significance of this video, in this current time, in this era, in this decade, people looked recently at the 2012 phenomenon, and a lot of people were quite skeptical about it. A lot of people were let down at what happened or what didn't happen, and all these sorts of things. The main point to take into consideration is that nobody is to know the exact precise time. This is certainly verified by the simple fact that, okay, it's been said in certain spiritual religious works, but for the amount of times that this has been predicted and didn't happen, it just goes to say that what human being has the access or the knowledge or the allowance to be able to say this? What would it signify? If people were to know the exact time precisely, and it was a definite thing that everybody accepted willingly and as if, knowingly, then we would have been prepared in such a way. But the fact that we don't know the exact time, the date, the hour, then it signifies that what we should rather feel is the genuine readiness for it. It is like a preparation for the readiness for a change. Saying this, there are countless people worldwide right now, and perhaps you are also indeed one of them, who are ready for a change from this type of existence. We are no longer, countless millions of billions, are no longer needing, and that is the word, no longer needing to go through life in a survival mode. We have, for some of us a long time ago, overcome the basic survival lifestyle that was experienced of animals, for example, in the animal kingdom. After being a human being for such a time, the next step from survival mode here was the spiritual understanding, the questioning of the universe. What's the next step? Now, it is not for no reason. See, everything is part of a great plan, but it is not. How do I word it? It is not to say that on this day this happens, on this day this happens, and that's how it is all the time. There are parameters, there are approximate time windows, time frames in which these things would occur. There are probabilities in which they would occur, and they are known beforehand. When we are in these incarnate bodies, we have a vast level of amnesia, which any spiritual person could certainly attest to. We can remember past lives, bits and fragments. We can remember emotional memories to certain cultures and eras. But as far as exact details, it's a bit foggy. Well, in a similar sense, that's how it is for, if it is so for the past, so shall it be for the future. One great thing that we can try to do is to try and live in the moment of now while understanding the external world going through its changes. But internally, it is an eternal thing, an eternal existence, and internally always. When it comes to the last days or the end times, there are indeed numerous prophecies about this, not just coming from the classic Christian Bible, which is obviously a great work and nothing against that, and Mayan prophecies, the Hopi Native Americans, there are even Buddhist prophecies and Islamic, basically worldwide. And it's not for no reason that it's worldwide. Everybody who studies into it has an understanding that it's not this earth was never intended to be perfectly continued cycle as such. While human beings were to be here, while souls were evolving here, evolution is very real in a spiritual sense. It certainly is. While souls have been evolving here, we were meant to use up and utilize the earth. You know, as it was said, go forth and multiply, but not indefinitely. Imagine a planet with like 100 billion people. Would we, or more than that, would it work? Would it be too much? So there is a certain plan that suggests, when we analyze it in our hearts, that there is a basic time frame in which, okay, that's about right to enact this. And what it comes down to is we are certainly ascending. Many of us are already having fond memories of and experiences with beings who have gone through similar experiences. Many people who come here are beings who have already surpassed this type of existence and experiences. And this is a pattern in the universe. It is not something that it's just this one earth. This Terra is one such place that has undergone the soul process, and which, after a certain amount of experiences, many beings rise. It is elsewhere in the cosmos. But it doesn't mean that it's every single planet all the time. Right now, and as you and I are here, our focus is here. But my point was, these are common things, these are eternal things. When we have the idea, when our ability to go beyond personal ego and personal desires and attachments, when we start to see the universal commonality, to use this word, when we start to see the universal tie that binds, the themes of existence are natural and they are common. They are predictable because it's not exact styles and techniques down to the letter, but predictable within the patterns in which they are. So we can take, by me saying this in a big roundabout package, or my attempt to make a roundabout package of a speech, is that we mustn't feel that this is something new and dreadful and terrifying, but it's a natural thing which has been seen before on other planets, and it shall be so also in the future. Who is not to say that you and I are not going to be helpers of those on different planets in a future time? Now, as it is a good quote to say, people that study into these matters perhaps could have a little authority on them, and not necessarily great, but some authority on them, as opposed to those who don't. So when there are those who have never thought about this sort of subject, even though we all are in the same boat, but who wants to look at it? We all are. Let's put it this way: all of us may have differing opinions and such, but we all can agree that we breathe oxygen, we live and we die. There is a sun that rises and sets. So whether or not we want to believe in certain things, we have to look at the picture of what is natural, what is in existence, what is happening. What is happening is many people are starting to feel the push that a big change is imminent and unavoidable, inevitable. And that is because, the change is inevitable. It is coming. Whether we like it or not, it is coming. Whether we embrace it or not, it is coming. Whether we agree, whether it personally suits us or not, it is coming. Many of us who have, let us say, developed our minds and our hearts to the degree of being, who's to say who's perfectly sane, but let's just say natural maturity, the natural maturity of growth, opening of heart, opening of mind, leads one to being mature and thus being sane and thus being an experienced soul entity that is no longer by necessity needing to undergo this type of reality. So even just in a simple logical sense and in a sense of feeling within our being, we know that there are bigger and better things out there for us. Many are the times that a great portion of us have judged rightly that this earth is, it seems primitive. The violence of it is primitive. The racisms of it are primitive. Most of the disagreements people have are very much unnecessary, and they have to do with a lack of understanding or a lack of an ability to let go of something, an attachment to a denial of something. But when we are able to be very realistic and look at the one and only big picture, the universal picture, thinking and feeling big, then all this becomes intuitively known quite easily, or at least felt within. Many of us are anticipating a big change, and it is happening. It's even those who doubt are not even terrified, because somehow they know that it is going according to how it must and how it only can. So if people truly believe that there was no this and there was no that, then they would be acting rather psychotic by this point. And maybe some are. But we take great comfort that a vast majority of people feel, even though, let's put it this way, for example, we know that while we are incarnate and in a body, we are within a certain time frame. The body is on a clock. It will die. The body itself will die. This doesn't terrify us enough. If it was true that we just stopped existing, and ask yourself that question, can you stop being a conscious entity? Picture yourself not existing and your consciousness disappearing. You can't even do it. So this itself is proof. Some people would try to argue that, but meditate upon that and you'll see that it's impossible to stop having a consciousness. Now, again, argue as we might, we are in a common boat together, and we have to understand that this is going to happen, and we are ready for it. It's not about being prepared in an ignorant way. It is about a natural process of shaking off the illusions of things and the attachments to lower energies, and birthing ourselves ever anew like a phoenix into higher realities. Now, they were always present. They were already always present, but we, by focusing so much on 3D reality, have neglected our potentials and our higher purposes and our higher being, to the point that someone like me can speak and others would feel that I'm out of my mind or I'm some crazy hippie or something like that. Now, there are a lot of people who are doing the same thing and even doing a better job than I am. But as for me, for those who want to doubt me personally, for example, I just say, well, I'm not too worried about it, because the truth will be shown to all. And if I acted in denial or in my own anger, then it would mean that I doubted myself, whereas I don't. So kudos to all those brave souls who are indeed going out on a limb to spread this great message, and it is basically the message of soul evolution in general and the next stage. People talk about extraterrestrials, they're very real. People talk about the soul process, going from simple lifetime to very life forms to very complex levels of being. This is all very real. People talk about gods and demigods, angels and demons and vast interdimensional beings and conflicts, but this is all a universal big picture. So, I always try and say so many things in a short time, but the fact is that end times are here. No one will ever guess the exact date, because it is not a matter of having the foreknowledge of exactly when, but rather having the foreknowledge that when it feels right, it will happen. Many of us could yearn for it in our hearts and say, I wish it was yesterday. It should have been yesterday. It should have been December 2012. It should have been, I'm sick of this place. But we have to understand it's not about me, myself, and I. Perhaps others need to get to this stage. My firmest conviction, and I could speak about verifications from my own guides, and I could talk about extraterrestrials and spiritual beings that assist me. Now, that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but to me, it doesn't matter if someone thinks it's crazy, because there's no shreds of doubts within my being about this, and many people have had their proofs. But by me saying this, I could quote authorities and say, well, this great being said that, but that's unimportant. What we have to do is look within and ask the simple, vital question. When, by me saying that, but when it feels right and when enough people desire it, and that is my vast point. Now, this is what I've been told by my friends, but ask it within yourself. You don't need friends to tell you. When enough people on earth truly desire to be out of this kind of existence, to be raised from this prison where we are in a world that we fight and spend a huge vast portion of our day to earn money to pay for this, to pay for that. It's a disgusting reality. It's an enslavement. When we are spending all of our energies on sensory gratification, well, I can do this and this and this so I can eat something. Survival aside, keep the body alive, but what I'm saying is focusing our attention on sense gratifications only and neglecting the core being. One of the themes that I like to repeat in my videos and in my book and books to come and all this is simply that there are primarily two things in the universe: being and thing. Being is interacting and playing and doing a dance with things. Things are objects. Things could even be subjects. Things are anything you can think of, but it is the being that this exists within, and is the being that is experiencing all of these things and themes, etc. So this is the universal eternal dance, being and thing. So when we are aligning with our internal nature, we find eternity by default, naturally, a natural, easy default. And then we can say, when people are in denial of being, the reasons for it is that they have not spent enough time. One of the main reasons is that they have not spent enough time with their being, without putting away all of the things anyone would find their being. And by finding the being, we see the superiority of it. Being is by default superior to things. So when we are doing this, when someone is attached mentally and emotionally to things, then they put their authority on this, and the type of talks, it's like putting your hopes and dreams, you're giving up your authority to these things to give you stability, to give you confidence, to give you parameters of your reality. But being mortal as you are, and I am in these bodies as we are, what good was it to spend a whole lifetime on just that? What good was it to laugh at or mock someone who was very religious or spiritual? What good was it to hate those that aren't? What good is it, you see where I'm going with this, to spend our energies on little particular things that are not serving the higher good, that are not serving the great purpose? So in this world we are seeing a shift of, and yeah, my speech sounds funny to some people, that's fine. it's quite fine. And if it doesn't to others, fantastic, then you're my best friend. And the point is, now what is happening, whether we want to call it New Age, whether we want to put nuances on it or particular titles, the fact is the earth, the people, the souls who are people who are experiencing this earth school are seeing the shift. What was of old is no longer serving us. We have surpassed that type of needing to have that experience. So the New Age, call it what we will, Kingdom of Heaven, the Enlightenment, the age of this and that or the other, it is here, it is coming. And it's not a new thing for other beings. It may be new for some of us, but many of us already live in that reality and are trying to help others to come forth, to jump on the train, as it were, and enter into the new place. People talk about fourth dimension, fifth dimension, 6, 7, 9, however far it goes. I can't tell you how far it goes, but all it is, perhaps, is emerging back with the source from whence we came. So when our emphasis is on, and it's not about doom and gloom, when people say, oh, the end of the world, when people are freaking out and are in denial and are fear-mongering, even those that are trying to be truth speakers and light workers, when they themselves are fear-mongering, that's because they are still living in doubt. Deeply within their own being, they have not given the justification or the closure to it, the agreement that it is very real. It is still a mental idea that has to be true, but they haven't, perhaps, I'm not naming names or making fun of anyone, I'm just saying some, whereas a lot of them are. People who truly understand this reality of what the world is, who truly do, not who think they do, who truly do, are naturally calm and peaceful because they have gone through the layers of the fabrics of reality and the different necessary setups and stages. It's like every time your consciousness grows, like what Buddha was saying, like a ring, if you throw a stone in the water, and the ripple effect, the rings. Well, every time you're on a new ripple, you're on a new ring, as it were, a new level going out, then there's a new challenge to overcome, there is a new fear to handle within, there is a new, until everything is perfectly clear, and your natural outcome is to be calm and at peace and at ease, because you know of a certainty, and it's not a mental masturbation or a, to use a funny term, or it's not a conflict anymore. It's been seen as it is perfectly, perfect knowledge, not made up knowledge or faith-based knowledge. It's a fact that such and such. When it is truly known as a fact, not in denial, not in hate, not in an argument with somebody, then it stands on its own and you are calm because nothing can take it away and it is irrefutable. So those who truly know about the end times, which is really a new beginning, will tell you this: they will not fear-monger. Doesn't mean that there's not some bumps that are coming ahead for people on earth, but they're not going to be that bad. They are not eternal. They are not going to destroy your very soul, your very being. It is for the change. One of the famous quotes in the Bible was this: I don't take pleasure in your deaths, I take pleasure in your conversion. When we are moving on to a higher level of being, a higher echelon, it is like shedding skin. It is like a phoenix rising and taking a new life from its own ashes. This mortal existence that we are experiencing, while it seems so real and so tangible, and it is to a good degree, and death is frightening to a good degree, and this and that and the other. Perhaps, perhaps not. But real as it seems, it is not permanent, it is a temporary nature. When we find our true identity, and it is immortal and eternal, conscious soul being, when we find that and know that in our hearts of a truth, not of a faith and of a supposition, but when we know it of a truth, that we know that no matter where we are in the cosmos, what experiences we're having, what conditions we're in, it is a journey. It is, the moment itself is not eternal, the moment itself is temporary, and there is always a nowness, there's always a future to go to. So, excuse me, to say it for one final time before I stop the video, is that when it comes to the end times, the exact date, nobody is going to have the exact date. Nobody's going to tell you it's exactly this and it's going to happen exactly like that. There are approximations, to just use that word. There are pattern effects that, okay, in and around this little time frame, it should happen. I've been told by a powerful mystic or two that we should see the change between the year 2025 and 2045 in there or thereabouts. But I can't tell you of a certainty that that's the case. I don't know. I could listen to someone say it, but I don't know. Ask yourself if you know it. Maybe there is someone that does know it, but I mean, I was under the firmest impression that the Book of Revelation and other works like this specify that no one is to know the exact time per se, in down to the minute, down to the millisecond. What fun would it be if we really did anyway? I don't know. But we can take that to the bank, as it were, is that you can ask yourself that deeply within. I'm sure that there are many people who said, oh, it's definitely 2012 at this time. They could have believed it with their whole heart, and look, they got disappointed. The point is, human beings, while we are souls in the human experience with our amnesia, we're not meant to know the exact perfect time. If anyone did, well, only when in an eventual sense, when one of our predictions becomes finally true, well, then that person could say, told you so. But such as you have it. Whether or not it comes, it's not even for us to worry about whether or not it comes in this exact minute or something like that. It doesn't matter. It is inevitable. The identity with soul is a natural uncovering, and when it is, you will know your identity. You'll be very happy. You'll be very safe. You'll feel very calm. Very little will bother you. The fear mongering, a lot of people do it for attention. Maybe a lot of people do it to make money off it. Oh, I'll write a book about 2012 or something. I don't know. Whatever people's motives are, and most people are, perhaps trying to sincerely help and guide. Well, that itself is the main thing. Come the time of the change, where does your intention lie? If you wished for the growth and the assistance of everybody, if you wished for the destruction of everybody, ask yourself that. Right now, and the end times are soon, we feel it. The new beginning is at hand. Ask yourself, where are you now? You should, if you are similar to my own vibration, have a hope and a love towards a beautiful future. What else can we ask for? This means, with that hope itself, this means we're ready for it. It is close. I think my opinion is that just a few more need to demand it in their hearts, and voila, there the new beginning will be. Will it be death and destruction? Will it be planets collide? Will it be this and that? Some say by water, some say by fire. Is it going to be a calamity at all, or just a general change after some wrestling and struggling with ideas and shedding skin, so to speak? But let's embrace it and know that the soul is eternal, and that it might be seemingly a harsh thing in the moment, but it's going to be for the better for so many of us. Let's remember that. A most sincere namaste. I'll catch you on the flip side. Take care.